You're listening to part one of an interview with the third place winner of the Catholic University Center for Human Rights annual Human Rights Essay Contest by William Saunders, Director of the Center for Human Rights. To read the award-winning essays, go to humanrights.catholic.edu.
Okay, today I want to welcome Father Ambrose to the Barefoot Lawyer Reports on China podcast. Father Ambrose is actually a student in my Master of Arts in Human Rights program. And anybody who's listening and who's interested in the Master of Arts program can go to the website of the Center for Human Rights, and you can get some information and link to the web page where you get even more information. And you'll find tabs there where you can learn more about this Master of Arts in Human Rights from the Catholic perspective, the program in which Father Ambrose is involved. And Father Ambrose is a priest from Nigeria who has spent 1 year with us and has a second year coming up. So again, welcome to the podcast, Father.
Thank you very much, Professor Saunders. Thank you.
So, as I've mentioned on this podcast before, the Center for Human Rights sponsors an essay contest looking at human rights issues connected with China. There are many reasons for that. Our distinguished fellow at the center is Chen Guangcheng, the famous barefoot lawyer who was nominated for the Nobel Prize actually back in 2012. But who now works with us here in Washington at our center and has taught a class to Father Ambrose and other students in the program. So we have an essay contest that looks at human rights in China. And as most people listening will know, the issues on human rights in China are not limited just to China, because China is such a powerful country and is so committed to spreading its anti-human rights views in the US and everywhere else, that it's a threat to true human rights. So we wanted people to take a look at it. Father Ambrose wrote an essay for us, and it was one of the prize-winning essays, and it's called Technology Censorship of Religious Groups in China. So, Father, I'll turn it over to you. Why don't you tell us what you wanted to write about in this paper, and then we can zero in on anything we need to.
Okay, thank you very much, Professor Saunders, and for all of you at the Center for Religious Freedom. I was actually motivated by Ambassador Sam Brownback. You know, when he taught us the class. Yes, having met Chen Guangcheng and also looking at his book, The Barefoot Lawyer, I've heard about all the different ways that China as a country is stifling religious freedom in that country. But when I took a class taught by Ambassador Sam Brownback on international religious liberty, at CUA, but he opened my eyes to, the modern ways that religious freedom is being restricted and censored in China. So that was why when I saw this opportunity for an essay contest, even though it was a little bit tight for us in the semester, I decided to plumb a little deeper into the issue of Chinese Communist Party censoring religious groups in China. So that's why I came up with this topic, technology censorship of religious groups in China. And in that case, I just wanted to expose the different modes that the Chinese Communist Party is using to censor as well as restrict religious freedom in China. Now, for those who may not understand what technology censorship is all about, it's just a question of an issue of using technology by a government to control and limit the ability of an individual or group to access information. So the government is seeing religion as a way of allowing other religious groups to exist in the country as a way of destabilizing their mode of government, the totalitarian system of government that they have in place. They want to promote only Confucianism, which they look at as the only and official religion that should be, of course, controlled. So any other religious groups has to be controlled, or restricted. So now, because religion is so dear to the heart of man, to the soul, very, it's the human rights of the soul. It's not so easy to restrict people from or bar people from worshiping God or for worshiping God the way they want. Now, what they have done, because they haven't succeeded, they haven't been so successful at restricting people from worshiping, the way they would like to. They now employ the use of technology to monitor, and this type of technology, has to do with filtering and regulating the internet, internet contents, such that as access to content, to information, to materials that could help people to worship is so restricted because of the technological advancement that they have put in place. So now this has made it difficult for people to, it's violating people's religious rights, the right to worship the way they want, because this is a very cheap and easy way of restricting and monitoring people. So this the government filtering can easily disrupt the way that people communicate and present ideas. And of course, that's a very effective way of controlling information. And it's relatively cheap, hard to detect, and it restricts a large quantity of materials in a very short time. So that is why unlike the physical surveillance of physical materials, this is quite faster and more efficient because it gathers large amount of information within a very. So because of this restriction, the Chinese people went into covert ways, means of accessing the internet by using VPNs, and just for context anyway, because it might look like this is not just something that is being made up. It's been there as far back as 2005. I remember when the U.S. Secretary of State, the then U.S. Secretary of State Condoleezza Rice visited China in 2005. There were over 20 websites that Chinese government, through this kind of censorship, shut down, including websites where Chinese citizens could access the Bible, to read for themselves, whether written in Chinese language or written in English. So that was the way that we are controlling, the means through which they were regulating and controlling the internet for people not to access religious materials. But they tried to circumvent that by through the use of VPNs, which allows people to access the internet without being noticed. But unfortunately, Chinese government also began to partner with technological industries, companies who produce smartphones that have become commonplace amongst the people, the citizens, so that they will be able to use VPNs to access some materials that the government was restricting. So that made it a little bit more complex. And then, of course, they tried to use, use some policy mechanism to influence technological companies that are producing the phones to include some facilities in the phones and even computers, such that before you can for your device to access the internet, it needs to be activated through the government system that will be able to detect or prevent it from using VPN. So it was a total and comprehensive, takeover or control of anything that could be accessed online, by the by the citizenry. So that's basically what I tried to expose in this a little essay. There was a lot of a time constraint, but yeah.
The Catholic University of America's Center for Human Rights has published a documentary on the United Nations Universal Declaration on Human Rights. The documentary features world-class human rights experts, from former State Department officials to ambassadors and human rights activists. It can be found on our website at humanrights.catholic.edu.